Hello everybody, Mr. LEGO Lover 55 here, and today we're taking a look at one of the more surprising set choices for Ninjago's Legacy lineup. This is set number 71860, Lloyd's Titan Mech. Retailing for around $130 US, this set is recommended for ages 14 and up and has around 1,293 pieces. And I'm considering this a surprising set choice, mostly because Legacy has focused primarily on sets and locations from the first few seasons of the show. This one is a remake from 2019, originally debuting in season 11 with Secrets of the Forbidden Spinjitzu, which was one of the more controversial seasons at the time. However, that original set was the first to introduce the Titan Mech lineup, and despite all that, I actually think it's really cool that we're seeing a remake of a set that wasn't that long ago. I mean, 2019 was 7 years ago, but it doesn't feel like that long, you know? And now I say remake, but I feel the term reimagining is a bit more fitting, because while there are a lot of similarities between the two, the core style of this mech is almost completely different. It very much has a sort of Gundam-inspired style with the massive shoulder pads, sleek edges, and the kind of over-exaggerated proportions. And while I do like the style, especially with some of the other Titan mechs we've gotten, I just don't think it works for this one, as it's something the original wasn't really known for. Story-wise, the mech was used in sort of a long, arduous journey across the frozen wastelands of the Neverrealm, almost as a sort of wandering, more traditional Ronin samurai type guy. And I just don't see that at all with this new style. Speaking on the set's own terms though, they absolutely nailed the style they were going for. Again, I just think the original had a bit more sauce. I do have to say, I really like how a lot of parts on this new one feel like upscaled bits from the 2019 model. You look at the lower legs and it's the same design, just with bigger pieces. The forearms had these vehicle wheels and they use an even larger version of those on the new model. Despite how much has changed, it's nice to see many of these design cues still present on this reimagining. One of the biggest things this one has over the original is the increased articulation, including the triple ball joint knees, rotational thigh movement, ball-jointed shoulder pads, and waist mobility. The knees are easily the biggest improvement, as I think the lack of it on the original was one of the set's biggest detriments. However, it almost feels in vain, because while it adds a lot more articulation than it used to, I don't think it's fully maximized thanks to the limited ankle movement. Which is a shame, because they even added this bionicle piston to help support the ankles, but this armor plating at the front just completely negates any forward angling. When it comes to mechs, they can have the most posable knees, but if there isn't enough ankle mobility, there's almost no point in having them. Aside from articulation, this set's got a few more surprises. This sword, which has a really nice build by the way, love the use of that mop piece for the tassel, can be stored on the back when not in use. And these wings, while a far cry from the original, can actually be removed and combined to form a shield, though I think doing so does compromise the look a bit. These smaller wings can additionally be used as wrist blades. I will say, this does not look great from the back as the wings are completely covered in anti-studs. However, I honestly prefer the functionality of this much more than the original's little detachable flyer. Even cooler though is the attachment system, because if you have Cole's Titan Mech, you can actually swap the back attachments between both builds since they use the same connection points. Not really a necessary addition, but a fun one that I'm very happy exists. Honestly, I think I might like the general look of this better. It just reminds me more of the original. I like how enclosed the cockpit is, and the additional weapon storage for Lloyd's katanas is much appreciated. The head, while much smaller, does have a much wider range of movement, and it definitely fits in well with the style of the other Titan mech heads. The torso is probably the least interesting part of this build. The build is pretty standard, it doesn't really do anything exceptional, though these blades on the front are pretty satisfyingly lined up almost perfectly. There's also the addition of these little banners, which I actually really like. One even has Lloyd's old dragon symbol, which we haven't seen for quite a while. I mentioned the waist articulation earlier, and I have to say, this may be the set's biggest flaw. It uses this singular ratchet joint, and while it poses fine, my main issue is just how incredibly unstable the connection is. I've played with this thing for a few days and it has toppled over and broken in half numerous times. It doesn't have 360 motion, so if you turn the waist too far, the entire build is just going to snap in half, which is just not okay. I'm genuinely scared to leave this set be out of fear of it toppling over and breaking in half. And I think this is really unfortunate because this hasn't really been a problem with mechs of this scale until now. Granted, only Cole's Ghost Titan Mech and the Fire Knight Mech really fall into this category. They never had this problem primarily because they used a stronger point of connection for the waist, and I have no idea why they didn't use the same method here, considering it's significantly heavier. When it comes to the minifigures, there's only 3 in total, but I love the choices. Of course, we once again get Lloyd in his ZX robes. Similar to the other ZX Ninja, he swaps out the gunmetal and silver for gold, and again, this makes the most sense for him considering his history with being the Golden Ninja, though it would have been nice to see that original color scheme back. Personally, my favorite figure from this set is Grimfax. The fact we're getting a Blizzard Samurai in 2026 is just so cool to me. I always love their designs, and it's a treat to see LEGO bring back the original Blizzard Samurai helmet, which is somehow still in production. The dark blue did throw me off a bit because I kind of figured that the helmet was more gunmetal. After rewatching the season though, it is a little bit iffy on what the actual color scheme of the helmet is. The gunmetal variant does exist with General Vex, so you always have the option to swap it out. And the third and final figure in this set is the 6th exclusive anniversary figure. This is Hibernus, the original Elemental Master of Ice. This guy is done pretty much perfectly. I'm sure there's some minor differences between this version and the original show design, but honestly, they're so minuscule it kind of doesn't matter. He gets an all-new printed torso, legs, and face print, which is really cool considering the other 2 Elemental Masters we've gotten had reused generic city face prints, and the stand he comes with is pretty much the exact same build as all of the others, though I have neglected to mention that each of them have a different colored plate that corresponds to their varying elemental powers, with Hibernus here using one in a sort of light pale blue color. But overall, this set's kind of a mixed bag for me. There's a lot I love about this set and a lot I don't. As a reimagining, I think it does an excellent job, fitting incredibly well into Ninjago's current lineup of Titan mechs, even if I do prefer the aesthetic of the original more. That being said, because it's a reimagining, it doesn't do a whole lot differently than other Ninjago mechs. Despite being almost a culmination of everything the designers learned from making these Titan mechs, out of all of them, I think this is easily the most generic and has the least flair. And on top of the unstable waist connection, it just makes me prefer the original more. On top of that, it retails for $130, and while the value is decent, I don't think it's entirely justifiable. Similar to the blacksmith from this year, it's a very dense build, and a lot of that value is in the many pieces tightly packed in. However, because it's so dense, it weighs an amount I feel it's barely capable of supporting. The back attachment especially adds a major imbalance because a lot of it is plates stacked on plates stacked on plates, so you have to pose it just right so it doesn't fall on its back. The shoulder pads additionally add a lot of weight. They fit well, but it just feels like there's an unnecessary amount of design work and parts usage when a simpler and less parts-intensive build would have worked just fine. If you never had the original Lloyd's Titan mech, this one's a pretty good substitute, it's just not without some drawbacks. But those are just my thoughts. Do you prefer this to the original? Is this your favorite Titan mech? Leave a comment and let me know your thoughts. And if you enjoyed this video, consider leaving a like or subscribing to the channel for more content like it. But that's pretty much all I have to say, so I hope you all enjoyed this video, thank you for watching, and keep building.